This is Austin Joseph interviews, I guess, and first guest is PhiDX, and I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to me about Tekken.
Thank you for having me. I'm Phi. I go by PhiDX, and I play Tekken 7 and now Tekken 8.
PhiDX has been playing like a man possessed.
There it is. I was just about to call it. I was just about to call it.
PhiDX, no way. He might do it. He might do it. Oh, he got it. He got it at the buzzer. Oh, the sweet PhiDX takes it.
Oh my God.
2-0 over Arthur at
22nd Junior. Oh
my God. Out of nowhere. The Hoppy for Keep Out. Woo!
Yeah!
The bomb.
I've been watching a couple of your videos, and you mentioned you started in Tag 2. But I also was looking at your channel the other day and saw you used to upload League of Legends videos.
I did, way back then.
And I think you still have it on your Twitch About Me section that you offer league training, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
I did.
You still have it on your About section on Twitch. So how did you go from League of Legends to Tekken? give me the story behind that. Were you always playing Tekken and League of Legends was something on the side, or was it vice versa? Or
Yeah, so I grew up playing Tekken 3 with my dad, and as the games came out on just console, I would play with my family and my cousins, my uncle, things like that. So Tekken's been a part of my life forever. And when Tag 2 came out, I was in, I think, high school, maybe early middle school as well, or late middle school. So for me, I didn't ever get to go to tournaments or things like that. I just really enjoyed the game. And when I finally saw like Korean gameplay, the first player I ever saw was JDCR, because I think he won a championship at the time. I came to know now that there are so many other amazing players, but at the time JDCR was the one that got a lot of, I think, North American coverage. So I watched JDCR and I loved the way he played. So for me, the first thing I wanted to learn was like Korean backdashing in Tekken Tag 2. To me, that was so cool.
It's quite the task for the first thing you want to learn.
Yeah, so it goes way back. It goes way back. Like, I bought a really cheap arcade stick because I dreamed of going to the Korean arcades. And back then I was just like, it's so cool how he just moves around and he's scaring them by just how he's moving. And then they whiff, and then he gets the dark upper, the whiff punish, So that has always been my favorite part of the game. Way back in Tag 2. So again, I didn't go to tournaments, but I started learning about frame data. I started learning about how the game works. And then I played Double Law back then because I was a big Bruce Lee fan. So that was
that's what you mentioned on your channel when Tekken, when his trailer came out. You were saying you were thinking about maybe maining him if you couldn't find anyone else, right?
Yeah. So Bruce Lee has always been one of my favorite characters, and like for me, enjoying the character I play is like a high priority because you go through so much learning and so much like hardship when you're learning a competitive game. So for me, really vibing with your character is kind of a huge deal. And
so you said you brought a Korean lever, but I know in your KBD video you were talking about how Speed Kick's training method helped you transition from a Japanese stick to Korean. So were you using Korean and then transition to Japanese and then back to Korean? Or? So
my very first stick was a Japanese stick. My very first 2 or 3. And I didn't go to Korean until Tekken 7. When I was... this is tying into the League of Legends part. So basically after I graduated college, most of my college was League of Legends and Smash. Again, there were...
Yeah, I saw you uploaded Smash as well, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have access to a Tekken scene locally, even though NorCal did have a pretty good scene, I think. So I was playing League and Smash, and then after I graduated, with my work schedule, I got to play maybe 1 or 2 League games a night, and then I had to go to bed to go to work the next day. And that was not sufficient to continue leveling up the way I wanted to. So that was why I switched to Tekken 7, was because I could get more games. I enjoyed the game as a kid, and obviously I loved Noctis. He came out while I was still a League player, but I enjoyed that character so much from Final Fantasy, and putting him in the context of Tekken, having him play that whiff punish style that I really enjoy, kind of brought everything together. So
it's very, very interesting. So that's so you would say you switched to Tekken out of a little bit of a depression for not being able to play more League games.
Yeah, it was like it was just like if I wanted to hit like Master, Grandmaster, eventually Challenger, you have to play so many games, and it was just not feasible. And I would rather not like give half effort to that kind of game because it does take so much time, you know. So it's
What
like, I
role
might
were
as
you
well just play
playing in
something
League of
else.
Legends?
I was a top laner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
that
cool.
fighting game thing.
It's like the peak fighting game position in League. So yeah, on that, so you mentioned Noctis. So I'm assuming you picked him up because, like you said, you're a big fan of. He's 15, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did mention this the other day. So you said that you enjoyed his defensive poke style gameplay and ability to control, like his space control with his big buttons. So are those kind of the reasons you gravitated towards him? Because I know, like in 7, there were some characters that already kind of did that. But was it just the fact that you really like 15? I also read or heard somewhere that you used to be a Deviljin player as well. Is that correct? Or
I had a secondary Deviljin. I was not a Deviljin player, but I
Okay.
believed the character was so stupid that a Noctis player could pick him up and do well. And at the time
Okay,
I got
so-
him to like True Tekken God. I didn't get him all the way to Tekken God Omega, but I was insisting that this version of Deviljin.
did you pick up Deviljin after you picked up Noxus?
Yeah, so what happened is I got Noctis to Tekken God Prime or Tekken God Omega, and then it was part of like a stream bit and part of like this character's so dumb. I really just didn't know how to fight him very well. I mean, he is dumb. Obviously nowadays he's weaker, but at the time I believed people were downplaying how strong he was, and so I was kind of on a quest to like show people like you can play him in a really dumb way and win.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I cheesed some wins like in tournament and stuff like that with him.
I was thinking it was funny because I was like, if you started on Deviljin and went from a Mishima to a Noctis, that's a very interesting like transition.
Yeah, I mean, I had some experience because I played Heihachi in Tag 2 a little bit. That JDCR fanboyism was coming in, right? So I did learn like the wave dash mechanics and things like that earlier. So it was a smooth transition. But yeah, you had asked me why did I gravitate towards Noctis, and it really was largely how much I enjoyed the character in Final Fantasy. So the fact that, well, I played that game when I was about 21 or 20, and the character is about 20 or 21. So I found a lot of parallels, not only in age, but just the way his story arc went. Really was it resonated with me a lot. So when he came to Tekken, I remember it was so absurd that it wasn't even something I would have joked about happening. Right? I wouldn't have even said like, oh, they should add Noctis to Tekken, because it was so absurd of a situation.
Do you mean like a surprise? It was like a surprise guest pick at the time?
Yeah, it was like out of complete left field. Like if you were to give me, like, say, make a top 10 list of DLC characters and then give me a joke character, I would not have listed Noctis as the joke character. I wouldn't have listed him at all. I would have been like, that's ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
But in terms of playstyle, I think that kind of was emergent. I think that it not only was I really enjoying at the time that whiff punish backdash style, counter hitting, things like that, but they released a character who I really resonated with who happened to do the same thing. So for me, I was never really drawn to his big sword moves necessarily, or attached to the cheap things he could do. It was more that they brought a character I really liked, and he happened to play in a way I really liked. So it was a great coalescence of that.
And you didn't play Tekken 7 at all before he released, is that right?
I went to one tournament in season 1, NorCal Strong Style, and I was playing Law. And I remember...
Oh, okay, so you were playing Law before you picked up Noctis.
Yeah, and I remember that the game, to me, was just less engaging with, like, one character instead of two characters from Tag 2. I felt that... in general, that plus the fact that I was still really interested in League made it really weird to engage with the game. I wasn't having a lot of fun. And it wasn't just like, I hate this game, this isn't the game I see. It wasn't that extreme. It was just like, well, it's not as fun. I'll just play League. Like, it was kind of like that. So until Noctis came out, I tried Noctis in season 1 as well. But it really was the fact that I couldn't play League anymore that brought me to Tekken full time.
It's just so funny to me.
Yeah.
So wait, so back up real quick. So if you could have gone full time playing League, would you ever have picked up Tekken 7? Like if you could have,
No,
if you could have
probably
played
not.
League more.
I wanted to become a League streamer because my first and primary objective was to do something with video games that would make money. And so League was that avenue.
Yeah.
And that was probably what kept me into League and Smash. If you, I guess, retrospectively, both of those are like the money esports, right? So at least readily
yeah.
available in America compared to shooting games or Rocket League, things like that.
Right. They're more like traditional like Western esports. Yeah.
It felt more like the closest to a fighting game I could get that could make money.
Interesting. Do you feel that? Do you feel that the outside of content creation, the well for Western Tekken players to kind of capitalize on that is kind of dry, or has your feeling shifted, since then that, hey, there is kind of a area for Western players to kind of stake out and make money in the scene of playing Tekken?
I think that Tekken went through a really nice and like kind of a boom out of like fortunate timing, with Street Fighter V doing very poorly, and then with COVID hitting, there was a lot of Tekken traffic that, in my opinion, would probably not have shown up without those situations happening. So Tekken 8 is coming out with a lot of momentum behind it, and I'm pretty optimistic out of necessity, because it would be great if the game did well. But it's hard to say. Tekken is so niche, fighting games are so niche, and we're overshadowed by games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, right? So I think that it is hard to imagine, without a bit of luck, that Tekken would become the next huge thing that everybody wants to be a part of. It is so complicated and in-depth and intimidating, and unless you access, I think, that higher level of play, it can get kind of stale. It can feel kind of boring. So it's hard for me to predict. I've not been known for being good at predicting things. So
do you think with the new heat mechanics and the chip damage and more like aggressive mix-up style gameplay, like that's going to attract more people from Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter? Because I know like Mortal Kombat's going through like a real rough patch right now with cameos not working the way people want them to work, and certain play styles not working the way people want them to work and stuff like that. Do you think there's room for it to kind of get to that next level that you're talking about?
I certainly hope so. To me, it feels like a consequence of the fighting game genre more than Tekken specifically.
Can you elaborate
regarding
on that?
The new... So I just think that fighting games in general are just inherently smaller. Like the appeal is getting nerdy about it, right? Like the appeal is starting to study it. And
talking
it's so
frames and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's no... it's really hard to get to a point where you can enjoy the win with minimal work. And I think that's the appeal of big games like League of Legends versus, say, a game like StarCraft, right? Like these 1v1 games are so hard to get initial enjoyment out of. But put yourself in a team, add some variance, add some like, factors you can't control, factors you can focus on, like, itemization, things like that. You can create a situation where somebody can log into work, play a couple games, and sometimes they get a win, sometimes they don't. Or more realistically, college kids or school students, why would they study after school when they could log on, kind of like just engage with the game a little bit, and then maybe get a little dopamine out of a win? So I think it's just inherently the fighting game niche requires more work, and gamers probably don't want to work right now. Like it seems like a lot of work to do work on top of whatever you're doing already.
Right. So do you think the heat system and aggression and chip damage and stuff like that, do you think that kind of, because people's complaints are, these mechanics are dumbing down the game, they're not, traditional Tekken.
Yeah.
Do you think that those kind of mechanics are going to draw more of those players in that, like you said, want to play just a couple games after work? Or
So my attitude about heat system is, I remember being at the initial what is it called? Initial showcase of the first Tekken 8 gameplay in Amsterdam in 2022. They constantly talked about how boring it was for spectators to watch Tekken 7. It was rarely about the players. I think they cared a lot about how the game appeared. And so for me, the heat system and the nerfed backdash and these aggressive tactics, chip damage, things like that, are built for the spectator. And I think in that framework, it succeeds. I think that it does a good job. The whole game is built, just from my experience in the betas, playing. I did like a 72-hour stream of the first beta, and then I did like 50 hours of the second beta. And
did you sleep during that?
I slept a little bit. Like I wouldn't have been able to play if I didn't sleep. But I kept the stream running and would run like the footage in case people missed it.
Kind of like a subathon, yeah.
Yeah. So I played a lot of it, and what it seemed to me was how they built it was that you are so powerful when you're attacking that the game is built around. This is all speculation because we don't have the game yet. But the game is built around attacking so hard that your opponent can't do their thing to you. Like rather than try and mitigate their offense with defensive movement, you want to hit them first and oppress them to stop them from doing their thing.
So it's more like, I guess kind of in a comparison, a little bit like Strive then. Where
Yeah,
it's
so
like,
that was the concern, I think, that a lot of players had. But what's cool about Tekken 8 is that they've buffed sidesteps a lot. They buffed sidesteps, they nerfed low parry. So you're able to do this oppressive attacking. The defender, as far as we know so far, has decent amounts of counterplay. So it is still, like, from a variance perspective, more consistent to be attacking first, but the defender isn't helpless. It's a weird situation because in Tekken 7, the reason why nobody did anything is because the moves were so good. Everybody had a tactical nuke in their kit. 2 or 3 tactical nukes. So
Right.
of course everybody's gonna block and do nothing, right? Like if there's no counterplay, no reliable way to shut down these moves, then blocking is the best way, right? But at the same time, everybody has a tactical nuke, but also attacking doesn't feel very good because one low parry can do 50% HP at the wall, right? So it created it felt like Tekken 7 feels like the Cold War, where nobody
Yeah.
really wants to swing first and mess it up.
So
But,
if you were
go
going to
ahead.
change that, like, you mentioned everyone has a tactical nuke. Going into Tekken 8, like, if you were a developer, would you like buff the defensive options and then nerf like the combo damage and wall carry and stuff like that? Like,
So far from what I'm seeing out of Tekken 8 is that they've actually done a pretty good job of fixing that tactical nuke issue. I couldn't find any moves with the characters available that do everything. So like Noctis forward 1+2 is a homing, safe, mid, counter hit launching, unparryable, wall splat, right? It does everything.
I didn't know you couldn't parry it. That's fine.
No, if you actually list everything it does, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's a dash move, so it goes like full screen. Like it doesn't have a weakness except blocking it, right? I haven't found a move like that in Tekken 8 yet. And the buff to sidestep is really hard to understate. It's very, very effective. It's almost easy to do. I have Tekken intuition, so I hesitate to say like this is easy, right? But
Right.
It feels easy to find sidesteps compared to Tekken 7, where you had to be like surgically precise. And then in terms of the aggression, everybody has something dumb, but making reads at the pace that a Tekken game normally demands you to tends to be good. I'm seeing a lot of old head Tekken players body the Tekken 7 generation because Tekken 7 players are so good at doing nothing, minimizing risk, and finding like that one low parry or that one counter hit. But counter hits are heavily nerfed and low parries are heavily nerfed. So you're incentivized to attack more. They don't want to punish you for attacking, which is cool. The one thing I would buff, just for my enjoyment, is I think having more backdash distance would actually not be a problem. I think that being able to control your spacing creates a lot of cool Tekken mind games. However, I understand why they nerfed it given how Tekken 7 ended up. So that's the only change I would really enjoy.
When you say how Tekken 7 ended up, you mean with like, two pros going back and forth, like,
Yeah, every
dashing at
grand
300
final
goes-
would go to an infinite stage and they would pick Kunimitsu or Zafina because it created, and that's no shade. That was just the least variance way of playing the game, right? So like, and I have no ground to stand on if I were to hate on it anyways, because that's how I play. So to me, that was their changes are a direct response to how pros were playing that game. But in this case, they seem to have done a pretty good job of, so far, coming up with good answers. So I'm pretty excited for Tekken 8. Like, and I'm not sure how good I'll be at it because of that style change, but I think it is a net positive to make it more.
Are you
viewable.
still going to be trying to compete and stuff? Or are you
So my
gonna focus
plan
more on
is-
content creation?
My plan is content forward. If I enjoy the game, go to compete. It's as I've gotten older and juggled more things in life, I've found it less rewarding to get the tournament experience. Unless I'm good enough to be placing every top 8 or winning the tournament outright, the tournament experience is rarely as enriching as it would be if I were really young, like fresh in college.
When you
or
say
something.
tournament experience, are you talking about in reference to the fact that, like, if you're going to like EVO, for instance, and you're like, I'm not going to place super high, I'm going to make it out of pools, obviously, but I'll probably be in, top 16, top 8, something like that. Are you saying it like that, where it's like gotten older, so it's not really worth it unless you know you're going to win the whole thing? Or
No, well, kind of. My enjoyment in a tournament comes from showing up on stream or winning the whole thing. So for me, when I say tournament experience, I mean like flying out, being in a hotel, getting acclimated, managing my energy. There are a lot of social demands at events that, to me, can get in the way of good competition. So just the act of juggling that also costs me energy. So I find that entire metagame of being at the tournament is not as fun for me as it's gotten more taxing. That's the part that I'm mainly deterred by. If I didn't care about any of that, I'd probably go to as many tournaments as I could.
so if you didn't get jet lagged and any of that stuff, you just be like tournament.
Yeah. It's the disruption to my regular life, but that's part of the beauty to me of how good Arslan is and all these other pros is they're flying internationally,
right?
And putting up that kind of gameplay, that kind of composure, that kind of poise. That is
Arslan's
incredible.
Like
to me.
what, 27?
Arslan's my age. He's 28.
28. Okay, so he's around our age then. Okay, so back onto my list of questions, and then I got a couple more kind of off the rails ones.
Sure.
So you're talking about Noctis, and you're not sure how good you're going to be because you like that defensive poking style of gameplay, and this is more focused about like unga bunga, like in your face, like that kind of stuff. You're really well known for playing Noctis. I mean, your whole channel is around you playing Noctis. You have that highlight video on your Twitter, showing that pop off, which I love watching it in context because it's great. But you also get a lot of disparaging comments about that. And I wanted to ask you, because Super Akuma is getting the same kind of thing, right? Because his character is no longer in the game. And you see it all over Twitter. You see it on his YouTube. You see it everywhere he is, like the Red Bull showcase. Everyone's like, Super Akuma's trash. He's not going to, make it out of pools anymore at EVO because Akuma's not in the game. When you get those kind of comments when you were playing Noctis, does that affect you at all? And kind of, has your approach changed with handling that since you started playing the character versus now? Like,
No, it's affected me a lot. I think my number one struggle from 2020 to 2022 was getting over the idea that I was like carried by the game. Actually, even probably till now, there are elements of wanting to be respected by the best in the world that weigh heavily on my psyche. Probably a bit of upbringing, probably just a bit of how I am. But no, it's absolutely affected me a lot. So there's a really funny tweet from SpeedKicks that I enjoyed. He said, NA is very lucky that PhiDX keeps stepping up to beat PhiDX for them. And
is that in reference to because I know you've also you're also well known for getting nervous in tournament settings and
it's
talking about how you're going to overcome that.
It's attached to this clip of me having Shadow 20Z at elimination point. He had 1 pixel, and I blocked 3 of his launch punishable lows and punished none of them. And then lost, and then got eliminated the next game. So it's a really funny clip. I can link it to you later. But
so was that kind of the moment in a tournament setting where you realized oh shit, my anxiety is really holding me back in a tournament setting? Because I know you made a video talking about how your experience with that kind of and trying to get over that hurdle made you into a better player. So what was the moment that made you recognize oh, this is a problem and something I kind of need to deal with if I'm gonna go pro?
I knew it was a problem since League of Legends. So I've had this problem and been pretty aware of it since I would say 2017. Actually, even way farther back.
Is it
this is a deep-seated problem. It's more than anxiety. I would say it's a bit more it has flavors of many different things. But I would say it first came up in 2013, 2014 when I was applying to colleges. So my the mindset coming in was very, very high stakes. You make it into a good college, your life is set. You don't, your life is doomed. It was very black and white, right? So when it didn't pan out, that kind of planted the seed that when an important moment happens, I will probably choke in it. And that has been a persistent problem for the past 10, 11 years.
I relate to that so much.
Yeah.
So
So every time I played League, I could win lane. I would win lane almost every time. And then I would choke the middle game and then choke the end game. I would be the one that died that really mattered because I was the most ahead, right? It happened in Smash tournaments too. I was about to beat not a pro player, but like the local power ranked player in NorCal, and NorCal's a pretty strong region. So I was in a position to beat him, and then I choked there too. And the list goes on and on and on. And my brain loves to keep that list going, right? So that's where my whole platform comes from on kind of just being kind to yourself and chilling out, is direct experience in multiple games, multiple domains of experiencing that feeling. So for me,
has it gotten better as you've competed more? Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
absolutely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Absolutely, it's gotten better. And for me, what I've learned the most is that the gentleness part is kind of, it feels foundational for the kind of person that is like self-mutilating when it comes to online games and things like that. The gentleness is foundational in that none of the productive changes you need to make to develop good focus and good composure can happen without that initial gentleness. Because the best players in the world, even if they're being hard on themselves, when it comes to the game time, they're not. They're focused on the game.
And you say,
and that was what I
gentleness
didn't
in
realize.
reference- You say gentleness in reference to being kind to yourself when you're in that mode?
Yeah. And I call it gentleness. Realistically, if you were looking at like pro players, it's just nothingness. It's just the absence of anything, right? And it's funny because you'll hear pro players when they talk on stream, especially like, league players, younger players, they always talk about like, oh my God, I'm so bad. But what I think audiences like me didn't understand at the time is that that disappears when it's time to game, right? Like even if they say it all the time, in the moment where they're doing the thing, they're hitting the buttons, they're reacting to the things on screen, that thought doesn't exist. And that was the gap, is that I thought, I'll just copy them and I'll get better. I'm bad. But I would think about that while I needed to be thinking about the things to do in game. And it seems so obvious when you frame it that way, but I think for somebody who can get stuck in the weeds, and I have met many people in many communities that feel similarly to me, it is kind of foundational to just first release that harsh energy on yourself in order to get to a point where you can start grinding things like focus. So from 2022 till now, most of my Tekken 7 practice was me looking at the screen and breathing. Like I would put that note on my screen, look at the screen and breathe. And it's not even just to stay calm. It's not even just to say whatever. It was literally just, I looked at what was happening when I was breathing. And we tested it, me and my friends, we tested it when I would play like rhythm games. So I would try to pick up Osu to try and test that constant stream of focus. And I would lose the full combo games, like I would drop my combo if I stopped breathing. So it became an exercise more of developing focus than at a certain point compared to refining my Tekken game.
That's very interesting. So, and how did you develop that? Is that kind of anxiety release or stress release of just like, if I stop breathing, then all my focus goes to, oh my God, I'm going to choke.
Yeah.
And continuously breathing, would you say that kind of just keeps you more calm and focused on being in the moment? I
never enter the realm. I try to never even enter the realm of talking or thinking of it as like anxiety or stress, because as soon as I like point out the purple elephant, right, it becomes there. So the breathing is, it's keeping me in the moment, and I don't even think of it in the context of calming down. The way I think of it is, it is just putting some action on my brain to turn off the like executive function, right? So that is not my brain's job now, is to breathe and look at the screen.
Is to breathe, yeah.
Yep. And trusting that all the training and analysis I've done before will come through in my hands and through that flow state. Because in tournament, flow state is everything. Thinking is always too slow, except between rounds if you're really, really good. But for me, thinking would only happen between games. So if you saw the LCQ footage, I was getting a bunch of coaching and stuff like that on my phone, and Tony coming up. That was the thinking time. But even with that, I try to stay in flow state as long as possible, because it's just so it's crucial. It's everything.
And flow state is what SpeedKicks was talking about, where he's like, it's time to game. We're here. Let's just focus on the game. Was that kind of his methodology?
Yeah, I think it's a concept I've been interested in across everything from regular conventional sports to playing music and things like that. It's just if the audience is unfamiliar, it's just kind of like a state of being where you don't need higher order cognitive function to do the thing, but your senses are flowing naturally into your automatic brain, and it's flowing, and it's really hard to describe, but if anybody's ever experienced it, it feels amazing. It's ridiculous, and it's I think it's a top priority of many athletes and competitors in every field to access that as much as possible.
I think you were elaborating on it the other day when you were talking about how, you practice all these things in the lab, and then when you get to, tournament time, you're not thinking, oh, I need to low parry this. You're like, I've just low parried this so many times, it's a low parry. Like,
you see the thing on screen and your hand goes to down forward. Like, that's what it is, And it's funny because if you ever hear stories of like really, really good tennis players, like Maria Sharapova, she would get really mad if the towels in her hotel room weren't just right. And I think it's because I can't remember which player, but like people would joke about wearing the same underwear for whatever tournament or whatever like basketball game and things like that, And it's all, I think, in that idea of comfort and flow state, right? I think that's what everybody's striving for. Differently effective methods, but it's very clearly a top priority to feel in the zone and just doing your thing.
Yeah, and I think you understanding that over the course of 2 to 3 years now is huge, I would say, for your competitive play. Because for a while there, I think I remember Tasty Steve talking about it one time. I think I was watching ICFC or some other tournament you were competing in, and he's just like, and you lost the game or something, and he's just like, PhiDX choked again or something like that. I was reading something on Twitter. I'm like, man, because me and my buddy's a Noctis player too, and he loves watching your gameplay. I was like, man, but I've watched you talk about that, and I think it's great that you've developed a method that really works for you. So moving on a little bit. So lately, you seem to be on a kick of, and you did this with the Red Bull stuff for Tekken 8 with Cuddle's gameplay and also Super Kim's gameplay. And I think you did it also for Joey Fury's as well, where you're doing more in-depth analysis and commentating. So the only reason I ask this question is because K-Wiz does this on the side, right? He has his YouTube channel, and then he goes and commentates TWT. Have you thought about doing any commentary? I mean, that seems like, less stressful than competing. I mean, and you seem to be really proficient at it. So have you thought about doing any kind of commentary?
I think, it's been an interest to me, but I think commentary is a hard job. I have the luxury of sitting in whatever clothes I want to sit in and pausing the video and rewinding the video and doing all of these things that in commentary you can't do. You're interacting with another caster, maybe 2 or 3. You are covering things live. You have to be fast enough so the audience remembers what happens, but not get caught up in the analysis of it, right? And for me, I like digging real deep. So I'll notice something and I'll be 10 seconds late because my brain is still processing. So I rewind and then I show the audience, look at this moment. This is what I was thinking. Right. So for me, commentary is like everything commentators do is crazy. And on top of that, there's just, I think, so much uncertainty with commentary in every esport right now. A lot of the heavy hitters, the legacy commentators, are not getting rehired, whether it's because of rising costs or just the desire to have a new voice on the mic. It's so difficult. So commentary has been an interest to me, but not a priority compared to YouTube and competing. If at some point I'm unable to compete, if I lose my hands, then maybe I'll commentate,
knock on wood, you're not gonna lose your hands.
Yeah, but the work they do is so hard, and it's not that I think I could never do it, but it's just between developing that skill and developing the skills I currently enjoy developing, it's not my top priority.
So would you say you prefer doing commentary in a more controlled environment like you have with your YouTube channel or your Twitch stream, where you can rewind it, because nobody that comes to watch you on Twitch is going to be like, oh my god, PhiDX is rewinding 10 seconds to give us more analysis, right? They're going to be like, what did PhiDX notice that I didn't notice today? Whereas
some people get mad on YouTube, in my YouTube comments, they're like, will you stop rewinding? And I was like, just go watch the original match, you don't need to see me do it. I think I enjoy the platform, any platform that allows me to perform. And for me right now, I think I just have I've carved out a little unique slice of analysis that isn't seen. I think there are way better players that could do the analysis of what I'm doing. Like, I think I could list like 10 people who would do exactly what I'm doing, but better. But I think what I bring is the energy and the consistency. And, you know,
Yeah, that's kind of your niche. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's not so much what I would be best at or what it's a mix of what I would be best at and what I enjoy the most. And currently that is what it is.
So it's a nice crossroads, right? Because you still get to make content for YouTube and stuff, and you also get to talk about good ass Tekken, right? So,
Exactly.
So now we're going to talk about something a little bit more painful. So LCQ, are you happy with the results? I know happy is a loose word here. Like, I'm not, obviously you didn't win the whole thing and go on to, actually compete in Tekken World Tour. But do you have any regrets about your decisions during matches? Obviously, I know the one where you got hit by the range art must sting a little bit. But, other than that, because that's
funnily enough, I left the LCQ with the best internal feeling of any tournament I've gone to. Every single tournament I've gone to, I've left so unhappy that I sometimes literally booked an earlier flight home just to go home. Yeah. My first 3 majors, I immediately booked a flight home because I was so unhappy with how I played and I didn't want to stay there and I didn't want to hang out or do anything. So,
wow.
And I was lucky that I had the financial means to do it at the time. But no, I remember I distinctly know the feeling of feeling so unhappy because I choked, because I didn't show what I wanted to show. But at the LCQ, I remember stepping off and obviously being upset because I felt like I could have won the whole thing. But it was literally my best offline performance. And not only in result, but in quality of gameplay. It was the first time I felt like the PS4 delay wasn't holding me back. It was the first time I had beaten Genghis Dawn at an offline. Katarina.
You mentioned he beat you 5 times before, right? And then
yes, my very first offline event was it might have been my second actually. It was called Secret Garden in Atlanta. It was like in 2020, I think, or 2021. And it was so small that they structured the top 8 as best of 5 or first to 5s. And he 5-0'd me on Katarina. So and since then, not quite literally, for about 2-3 years, I've had a Katarina problem. Right? I lost to Katarina at KIT 2022, where I got 5th or 4th, I think, and that was previously my best offline performance. Katarina has just been a horrible character for me to fight against, and conquering that in kind of the final Tekken 7 tournament that I would be in against the player who is really good against my style was absolutely an incredible feeling. So I had that win. I had the win on Ao Richie, kind of cementing my ability to fight against him.
I didn't know you. Okay, yeah, I didn't know you faced him.
Yeah, so historically, I first fought him in Europe when I visited. We played ICFC Online. I barely won, 2-1. When he visited the US, we did a first to 5, and I was able to win it 5-0, which was nice. Because I felt like my style just really counters the European style if my defense is good. At least for Tekken 7. Tekken 8, we'll see.
And for those listening or watching, what is the European style versus the American style?
The Europeans are... Well, the American style goes everywhere, right? Like you get a lot of styles in America. You get some flavors of Korean gameplay. You get some flavors of European gameplay. To me, it feels almost like a different colorway of the Pakistani gameplay, where there's splashes of disrespect, not like player disrespect, but like
frames,
disrespecting situations and disrespecting represented options, and then there's a lot of emphasis on the player versus player matchup, right? Like people may not know specific character nuances, but they will try and play the player a lot. That doesn't apply at the top level. At the very top level in the US, they really, really know everything about the characters. So very, very specialized. The European style is optimization on the game side. So you will see the best combos. You will see touches of death, basically. And you will see insane knowledge of very specific micro situations. Against these 5 characters, sidestep right block works. Against these other 30 characters, you sidestep right block a frame sooner. Like that is a European type thing. That's an exaggeration, but it's a European type thing to know. So the flip side is that they are so focused on that their metagame is very rock, paper, scissors. So yes, they'll try to read you as a player, but in the context of Tekken 7, you could block mid 50 times, or sorry, you could keep stand blocking, and they would still just throw mids and lows for like at random, almost like rolling the dice. So the attitude I picked up fighting the Europeans was just one of consistency. If I backdash for the entire round, they will still sometimes whiff, even if they know that that's what I'm going to do, right? So, and that was my strategy against A.O. Ritchie, is if I just literally did not hang myself going into him, that I would find a whiff, I would find a counter hit, right? It was almost a guarantee. The best analogy I got was if you play like an 80-20 game plan and you roll the dice enough times, you will beat a 50-50 game plan, right? So the Europeans will get their really good reads, they'll get their really good combos, they will blow you up. But if you play the numbers consistently and you're solid, you should come out on top in the end. Now that's going to look different in Tekken 8.
Well, I was going to ask, yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's going to look a lot different in Tekken 8.
Yeah, because Tekken 8 is going to reward combo optimization a lot. They have these brand new combo options with Heat. And the gameplay is inherently a bit more rock, paper, scissors, right? You're going to be, because they don't want people just moving around, it is so hard to just move in a way that shuts down characters altogether. That was kind of the appeal of Tekken Tag 2 and Tekken 6 and Tekken 5, is that with certain movements and character knowledge, you could control, say, like 12 variables if a character has like 16, right? But in Tekken 7, you couldn't control anything, so you just tried to block. And then in Tekken 8, it feels like they don't want you to control everything, but they want you to be able to have an answer to everything. And Europeans love having like high reward, hard read answers into a big punishing combo. So that's why I think Europe and Pakistan are going to do really, really well in Tekken 8.
Okay, I do have a question about that coming up, so I'll be interested to know if when you elaborate on that a little bit. So I'm glad that you were happy with your results at LCQ. Glad that you beat Europe out representing America. Go USA. So you also mentioned in your LCQ run that you didn't want to pop off too much because your hand.
Yeah.
Did you injure your hand as a result of playing Tekken, or was that something like an unrelated injury?
So I didn't want to pop off because the stage manager said it's fine, but don't do that again. So that was the direct reason.
Okay.
Because I popped off again when I beat Genghis Khan. It looked like I fell on camera, and people were saying I fell, but I really just went to the ground because if I hit a table, I don't want to destroy anything. I'm like very cognizant, and when I get really hype, I'm kind of like the only thing that can handle my hype is the ground or the wall. I need a stable foundation. So that was what that was. I did injure my hand, and I think it must have been repetitive strain, but it was weird to me because when I play Tekken or play video games, I refuse to play through pain. And I think that comes from the musician's background. Like, I will never do any repetitive task if it's hurting. I'll stop. So I don't know how my first injury came about. It may have been... is it in your wrist or your actual... Yeah, I had like an issue where like if I flex my wrist like this, it would cause a lot of pain. And then it got so bad that I had to keep it in a neutral position. That was during the final ICFC season of Tekken 7. I'm not positive how it came about because while I'm directly playing, I felt no pain. But what I think happened is that I did have a long practice session and my forearm started fatiguing. And what I found out when I talked to doctors is what the forearm can do is the muscle can pull on the tendons when it gets really fatigued.
Yeah,
and
I have tendinitis in my arm.
So even though I wasn't feeling any wrist pain when I was playing, I think the overworking of my forearm was inflaming the tendons. And eventually, and I would continue practicing because I said, well, as long as it doesn't hurt while I'm doing the movement, I can't be making it worse, right? But I was continuing to fatigue this and make it worse.
And how have you? I mean, you stream this like 5 days a week. You play it professionally. Like, how did you deal with that? Just physical therapy and stretching a lot. Like
at that time, I was not streaming as much. Part of it was to hide my tournament gameplay. I felt that my strength was in a 1st to 2 where nobody has seen my gameplay before, so I streamed a lot less. It was a period where I was just competing and not doing a lot of streaming or YouTube. I was working full time at the time, so. The YouTube was just kind of resuming, but it was very, very light. So I didn't feel that I missed out on that kind of thing. Rather, I was just disappointed that I couldn't train because I was just going through a low period in motivation and kind of desire to play. And right as it was coming back, my wrist got injured. So I was like, well, that is a horrible bummer. So I was doing a lot of sitting and doing nothing. It was terrible.
So on the, I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I have to do the same thing with my arms. But on the topic of injuries, you mentioned that you re-herniated the disc in your back because you sneezed really hard during LCQ.
That one was so funny. It was actually funny to me.
How did you herniate it in the first place? And so was that a result of, sitting down a lot, or was that?
Yeah, I think
so.
So I think it's an existing injury. Just goes back to like I think Coachella 2022 or something, where I really herniated. Yeah, I did. I herniated my disc really badly then, and it was on the last day, so I couldn't move. I was like on the ground, and it was super bad. But and I also was making it worse with some stretches because I didn't know what to do until I got proper guidance and PT and things like that. So the second time around, about 2 weeks before LCQ, I herniated it again, but I knew kind of the countermeasures. So I was like, and I was sitting a lot because I was doing all these daily.
How'd you
YouTube
herniate
videos.
it the second time?
I was doing daily YouTube videos, and low key, I just stood up too fast one day.
Oh man,
that's a wake up call to get more active for real. But yeah, so I herniated again. A lot of sitting, a lot of poor maintenance of my body, and then I was doing all the PT I needed. Show up at LCQ. It feels like a little painful, but it's mostly good. I was feeling actually really, really good. Obviously, I sat a bunch on the plane, and then I sat a bunch playing warm up games. So the morning of, I got out of bed, didn't really stretch or anything like that. Went to get a coffee. I was wearing my backpack. I was walking to the venue, and I sneezed super hard, and I didn't like stabilize my core at all.
Yeah.
So I felt like, not like a pop, but I felt like that little ping, and I was kind of like, if this just happened, that is really funny. I was like, at this point, it's comical, So
yeah.
So now I'm paying a lot more attention to my body and things like that, and now I'm basically pain free again. So
are we gonna get PhiDX gym streams soon? Like
PhiDX what streams? Gym streams?
Gym streams, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we set up a workout room in the room next door, so I'd have to figure out a camera.
I'm sure you could make it some content if you did some Tekken 7 exercises or something.
Probably. Although eight is what we're like 2 days away, so
yeah, Tekken 8
gonna
exercises.
have to level up there. Go to the sequel.
I know there's a couple. I think like Jack's Blade or something like that does.
Yeah.
It's like how to get ripped like anime characters.
Yeah, that could work.
Okay, so do you have any? So I think you talked about this a little bit, but because you said you're content focused now, are you planning to go to Evo Japan?
Not Evo Japan, but definitely the 3 big US
Evo
tournaments
Vegas?
are always on my itinerary.
And that's so. What is that?
Combo
Evo,
Breaker,
Combo
CEO,
Breaker?
and Evo.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm thinking about going to Evo this year. I haven't been before.
Sweet.
I heard it's a good time. So
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a unique experience. It's almost like it feels more like fighting games con than just a tournament.
yeah, I mean it's because I think it's interesting because I'm really into Tekken 8, but obviously Mortal Kombat as well. So
Yeah.
a lot of stuff to watch. So on the note of you being a full-time creator now, so with Tekken 8 coming out in 2 days, right? Like it's releasing on Thursday for some people. Where do you see your YouTube and Twitch going? Like, are we, how do you see your content evolving with the new title release? Are you planning any new styles of content, or are you going to keep doing the analysis content?
I think the analysis content, provided it continue, it was. So the analysis content, the idea came because I watch a lot of Gotham Chess. So I just copied his style and tried to put it to Tekken. Even the layout of my videos, if you directly compare them, it looks the same.
That's interesting. Yeah, I do watch Gotham Chess, and now I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
No, I copied it directly. It was an absolute ripoff of what he likes to do. And to me, what was fascinating was that Tekken 7 was basically a dead game for a while. Like the hype is all around Arslan and Ni. There's not a lot of hype in the game.
And I noticed that as well because I was trying to stream as well, and I was like, Tekken's fun as hell. Like, I'm sure someone would like to see challenges. And I went to the Tekken 7 category. It was like 5 viewers, and then you go into the channel, and it's like all 5 of those viewers are watching Koreans, and I'm like, well,
unless you are covering the top pros, or you're making super funny meme content, or doing some kind of like throwback legacy, like did you know type thing, people don't really care about Tekken on YouTube. They're not really there to learn. And I found that my direct tutorial educational content from 2020 and 2021 was not getting traction because the audience is just not as geared towards like really sweaty gaming learning as they used to be. So even though I wanted to make that kind of content, it wasn't working. When I came back to committing to doing daily uploads, this started after the closed beta test in October. At first, I just took stream highlights, but those were doing hit or miss. I was really bad at packaging them because in a desire to make it more marketable, sometimes I would leave the material of the video too far. So people would be like, what does your title even relate to your video? I don't get it. So what the analysis videos came naturally out of that Gotham chess imitation and the desire to start with a like thumbnail title first approach and come up with a marketable idea and then talk about it to make sure it's constantly referred to and things like that. So
that's interesting to me because if you're doing thumbnail title first, I know some of the analysis you're doing is like the match analysis you did with Super Kuma and Cuddle, I think you did on stream, right? So do you come up with the title and thumbnail and you're like, okay, well now I'm going to center this stream around just doing this analysis, and then once that's done, then port it over to YouTube? Is that kind of what your workflow's like? Or?
So that's a work in progress. I re-recorded the Cuddle Super Kuma stream because I wasn't satisfied with how I did it live. So the one thing I did do live, actually I don't know. The one thing I did do live was the Joey Fury Ayo Richie match. That one I did do live, and it felt more like a live commentary than an analysis. And I think it was hype enough that I could just easily say whatever I kind of wanted. The most hype match in Tekken 8 so far. That's, it's fine. But I think that for analysis type things, yeah, I watch the match first, come up with the theme or the idea I want to market, and then I do my analysis recording. That's kind of my workflow there.
Yeah, it seems to be working really well. I mean,
yeah,
I've been watching your subscriber count go way up the last couple of days. So yeah,
so that's right. That was the question. So where do I see it going? Well, Tekken 7 was kind of dead when I arrived at this analysis format, right? So what I'm interested in is how will it translate when there's naturally high traffic around a game? How will it translate when people might be looking for more gameplay than analysis? I don't know how that's going to shape up, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that it's still going to apply.
Well, you're also in the position where you could give them both, right? I mean, because you are a TGO player and a former tournament player. So
yeah. So I have a bit of backing as like a tournament level player to say like this is like, pro advice or something. But like, I plan to stick to my format and kind of grind away at it because I have the most experience in it. I have the most comfort with it. The only thing I wish I could do better was like collaboration with other pros. Like, can I get them on camera? Can I get them to analyze with me? I did that video with Joe Crush, who won the LCQ.
Have you had difficulty with that besides with Joe Crush?
I think so, because naturally, I think the other player wants to get as much time as possible. But I think if somebody sees an hour and 15 minutes on the timeline, they're not going to click on it, right? So for that type of deep Tekken analysis, I think that 30 minutes has been a sweet spot.
Tekken to want that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So I think 30 minutes has been a sweet spot, and trying to target that while getting somebody else on the camera without editing it too much is kind of hard.
Have you considered doing any more like, well, you said without editing it too much. Have you considered like doing more highly edited analysis with like, like say you had like an hour worth of content? Because I think your one with Joe Crush was like an hour and 15 minutes, if I remember correctly. It's like an hour and 15 minutes. Have you thought all about like condensing that down into like, what you're talking about, like the 30-minute analysis? Or is it like the situation of like, there's just too much there that it wouldn't make sense to cut it down to 30 minutes because you lose so much context of what's going on?
It's both, and I hate opening the video editor. As soon as I open the video editor, I start nitpicking every single thing I said. I hate, like, it's not that I hate my voice. It's that depending on the mood I'm in that day, I prefer different cadences of how I speak. So sometimes I'll be in a mood where I want that vlog style, where as soon as I finish a sentence, it's time for the next sentence. And then we do this and then that. And sometimes I'll be in a calm mood and I don't mind like a podcast style where there's a lot of pauses and thinking and a slower pace, right? So because of that, I hate opening the video editor. Most of my uploads and my analyses are direct from OBS direct to YouTube. And I prefer to keep that workflow to keep the daily uploads. For me, the primary objective is upload every day. And
it's consistent. Yeah.
Everything I do is in service to that goal. So as much as I want to do collaboration and kind of, I would love to do long form content. I like highly edited content a lot. That's mostly what I consume. If it doesn't serve that daily upload schedule objective, then I do not put too much stock in that at this time.
And are you doing daily uploads primarily to capitalize on Tekken 8's release window? Is that, or like
Tekken 8's release window and just being in the algorithm that much? I want to become people's routine. I want you to make breakfast and watch a PhiDX video. I want you to drive home and listen to a PhiDX video. You know, I want you to like have dinner with that PhiDX on your TV. I'm trying to like get in there, you know? So like for me, a daily upload at like medium quality is more valuable than an evergreen video once a month. Yeah, because I think that my value, like again, there are people who can analyze better than me. There are people who can be funnier than me, but I can show up a lot. I can queue up for another game. You know what I mean?
Don't burn yourself out though, because I know a lot of creators burn themselves out trying to do daily uploads. So,
and I think the nice part is that this whole process has been like, there are definitely like hard times where like I don't feel like making an analysis right now. Like, yeah, I don't want to do it. But every time I actually get in there, it feels like going on a run. You know, it's like once I'm in there, I feel really good.
So you're telling me that you're now gotten to the point where your daily upload schedule is routine for you, so that when you push the YouTube video out, it's routine for your watchers to then watch you.
Exactly. I'm trying to become like a drug. You know what I mean? Like,
The PhiDX
I'm trying to get people addicted to PhiDX.
I like that. Okay, so I think we talked about this a little bit earlier about Tekken 8's heat mechanics and chip systems, but you can just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Are you kind of neutral?
Neutral. I'm neutral right now because for me, I love watching the best players in the world express insane skill. So if heat system allows that, that's great. If it doesn't, that's less great. I don't know yet because we don't know how the game will shake up. We'll have to find out. I think the one thing, you didn't ask this, but the one thing I am apprehensive about is like a heavy patch culture, or like aggressive patching and updates, because I think that Tekken is a game built on such deep intuition. They talk about legacy skill. It's because they've seen Fang hit this move at range 3 for the past 20 years. So they know how to handle every situation around.
Did they have that in Tekken 7, a huge patch culture? Or was
aggressive patches. Aggressive patches designed to destabilize. Right before the finals or right before a big tournament, they update half the characters.
Oh man, yeah, wasn't that? Didn't Leroy drop right before Evo Japan? Was that?
Sorry,
like,
didn't who?
Leroy dropped like.
Right yeah. Leroy dropped right before Evo Japan, unpatched, right? Like they and I understand the marketing angle. I think because instability and seeing new people rise up. I mean, that's why I benefited. I got Noctis. I got this DLC character nobody had experience on. He's very powerful, right? That clearly benefited me. So I understand the appeal because it does lead to these new stories of underdogs coming up. But personally, I love just watching the best do their thing, right? So heavily patching out their legacy experience in like, it feels like in an artificial way. Like it's just like, haha. It's not like
right. I mean, you know, if they
that
go
to me feels weird.
Yeah,
and
well,
it's
yeah.
I think there is an argument to be said for balancing, right? But by the same token, we're still making discoveries about Tekken 7 that people did not know. Like I think Xiao Yu has a throw or like a setup where she hits your back, and you can tap forward on a couple frames to block every option she can do, and that was just discovered. And then somebody said this isn't new. This goes back in Tekken 5, but Ni didn't know it. So when I say that there's, I disagree with patch culture, I think it's because I love the idea of watching a game naturally develop and watching people find answers, like Super Smash Bros. Melee. We play on the American version. They technically have a patched version in Europe, the PAL version, but it's basically an unpatched game. Like no balance adjustments, no nothing. And people will dig into the system to try to understand more. And I think that Tekken has the capability for that much depth, but as they patch and buff, the competitors are just going to go to what is the strongest, and we lose the opportunity to see this deep development of really, really cool, specific things in the game.
So that brings up an interesting question, because Akuma was in 7. Everyone loves Akuma in 7. He's everyone's favorite character.
My favorite character.
But in Street Fighter 6, they're handling their patch cycle where they're releasing all the characters for year 1, I believe, and then they're going back and retroactively patching everything.
Yeah.
But the pro scene, I believe, from Street Fighter, they do enjoy, from what I understand, so take this with a grain of salt, but from what I understand, they like the fact that the patch cycle is so long, but there's also like characters like Zangief that are like absolute trash, and they're like, please buff Zangief, like he's trash. Like, so would you say yourself as a content creator and a professional, like, what do you think is the ideal patch cycle? Like 6 months or you know?
I'm so disconnected from Street Fighter that it's hard to know.
I'm just saying in general, like, yeah.
In general, I would favor make your game good and then don't patch it. But no, like realistically, I would favor no idea of a patch cycle. I like the idea of a patch out of absolute necessity. Like, there's one character who is very clearly so much better than everyone else and demonstrates it on a tournament level, and it's not fun, right?
Like a Leroy,
to me, there's so many
Akuma situation, basically.
right? Because to me, Tekken 7 is the most balanced Tekken. It's not necessarily the most fun because everybody has that tactical nuke thing, right? And their patching solution was to give more tactical nukes out or gut people who had too many, right? So like, we never got to see two people really navigate things with their movement, navigate things with their mind games and their spacing. We saw people waiting to hit their nuke. And when one character's nuke wasn't good enough, we gave them a better one, right? Like, I like the idea of a character being horrible. And then the player base is so dedicated, they find a way to make it work, and maybe that character becomes insanely good. I remember if you ever grew up playing like a Smash game, people like, at first Marth seemed horrible. Like, for a lot of really casual players, like, yeah, he had a sword, but unless you hit the perfect tip, it was so weak. And other characters could like shoot their lasers at him from far away, or you could run in and hit him, and his moves were slow, things like that, right? Like, it felt weird playing a guy like Marth. And then the pro scene found him and understood the movement, understood spacing, developed like the perfect chain grabs, the infinite kill. And like, people would argue Marth is lame, and that's fair. But all of these developments cannot happen if they saw that and just said, let's make Marth better. You know what I mean? Like none of these developments happen. Same thing with like, I would say a good example is Fang. Like, Fang was not a bad character in season 1, season 2, season 3, but because he was so underrepresented, they buffed his combo damage. And then he became a tournament menace. And Fang's entire identity is that he gets to play insane Tekken. He gets to cheat his way out of so many situations because he doesn't get good combo damage, right? So you lose that identity of this really, really versatile, oppressive, disgusting character who hits you a lot but doesn't hit you that hard. Now he does all of it. It's a little less cool to me.
That's interesting, because I actually didn't know they did that, because I know that at the beginning of Tekken 7, I think Neo was playing Devil Jin, I think, and then I didn't know
beginning
that
of
they
Tekken 7,
buffed...
I think he was playing a lot of Paul also.
Yeah, I didn't know they buffed Fang. I thought that's interesting. I thought they left him alone for...
No, season 4 buffed a lot of characters to try and bring engagement back up during the COVID era. And they wanted everybody to feel like their character was really good, right? So there were some nerfs, obviously, but a lot of characters got buffed like crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have a good number for a patch cycle, but my opinion is that, especially coming from League, a lot of things get patched just to get patched. It's like a new card game expansion pack, you know? And I think that works for a MOBA like League, where the interest is in the breadth of complexity, where you want to learn a million different things, you want to learn a million different itemizations. But in a game like Tekken, which is built on depth, like really deep intuition, situational awareness, intimate knowledge of hitbox interactions and spacings, and how ABC shuts down XYZ, so you have to go into a different style. I think that patching is detrimental to that, especially when, you know how people complain that Tekken takes too much to get into? And the cool part comes once you've learned all that stuff. Well, all of the patches just recreate that process of learning the boring stuff, the hard stuff. I have to learn every frame, I have to learn every property. And the pros will do it. They'll do it because it's their job. But I think it's less cool restudying for a test than making like new like astrophysics discoveries, right? Like, if the math changes, we never get to explore the universe. We just got to learn what 2 + 2 is again, right? That's how I feel about patching.
Well, it's a pain for you too. I mean, even though you say the pros will do it, I mean, when they drop a patch, it's like, well, now I gotta go relearn all of Noctis's frame data or the things that they buffed or nerfed. If they
for me, it's content. For me, it's content.
Yeah.
You don't want to study it? I got you. Let me look at this. So I will abuse that, and that's part of my decision is that, you know, if they're making a lot of, I don't want to say anti-competitive, but if they're introducing a lot of headaches for competitors, does it make sense for me to compete when that's not even my strongest point? Like, my strongest point is, I think, performance. Like, when I'm on stage and on stream, I want to hit people with funny moves because the crowd will like it. So like,
Interesting. I didn't
That's
know
not
that.
in the interest of somebody trying to win. You know what I mean? Not necessarily. Well, it can be, but like the way my brain focuses is not. So content creation is such a good domain for me. But the problem is I love competing. So I'm addicted to competing. I think that's the best way to put it. If I were smart about it, I would not compete. But I'm so addicted to competing that I will probably keep going back.
Is ranked not? Does it not scratch that itch? Because it's not like
No, ranked is not the same because Tekken doesn't have like a hardcore elo system like say like League where you can be like top 200 and it really means a lot, right? Like you hit the top rank and people just stop playing. They lobby with people they know. They try to save their rank. You can save scummy rank. It's just not the same.
So you mentioned you like your favorite thing is to watch top players do their thing and
Yeah.
kind of break that down. So
Yeah.
and this next question is kind of on that same vein of what do you think America, because you know we're the best country ever, what do you think American Tekken is missing with regards to its Tekken play that Pakistan and Korea have? We'll start with that one and kind of go down the list.
I think we're the most disconnected major region. I think that we, if you visualize Korea literally, back in the arcade scene, it was 30, 40 plus people who were really good. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I wasn't around that time. I'm guessing the number. There were a lot of really good players in one place, really close in proximity, getting better, grinding against each other every day, comparing ideas, watching each other. It was high intensity, high density. Pakistan is the same thing. If you ever see Arslan's streams, so many people, they're all incredible on PS4 setups, multiple monitors, right there, talking, laughing, comparing, studying, playing. If you look at Europe, they have the Germans are very, very well connected. The UK players are very well connected. I don't know a lot about France and Italy and the other countries, but I know that Germany and the UK are very, very densely focused, right? If you look at the US, we have NorCal, where most of the players have retired. SoCal, where most of the players have retired. And then the internet connection is, because we are such a sparse country, it's hard to get reliable internet connections with other players, right? So it's not feasible to play with the East Coast players who are decently dense, right? You have Ty, Fear of Silence, Joey Fury, but even Joey lives in Buffalo, so he's like a few hours away, so he's relegated to online mostly. You have the Florida scene, and you have Atlanta, and then Texas, and nobody can connect to Texas. The internet connection to Texas is universally bad. So, and then there's like Seattle and Portland, which are smaller. So like everybody's so disconnected that even if you want to build yourself up in a local scene, that's hard if you're not in the major cities. And if you don't have locals, you have to play online, but the online connections are so unreliable. So we are so disconnected in a way that makes it really hard to get that high density, high intensity practice that I don't want to say every other region, but the major winning regions do have.
And how would you solve that? Because I was thinking about this the other day, as a question to ask you, because I know you played League. Would it take like a sponsor shoving like 10, 20 pros into a, one of those old style League of Legends houses, but for like Tekken, and just have like 20 arcade cabinets in there and be like, okay, now go beat each other up for 20 months.
I think Atlanta had this Tekken house. I wasn't around at the time, but I think they had some concept like that, or like people regularly came over. And it shows in their scene. Their scene is really robust. I think it's a consequence of many factors, and I'm no sociologist, so I don't have the deepest thing. But I think if you're on the West Coast, most people are more interested in like going outside or living their life, or like enjoying other things. Not like going outside in a derogatory way, but yeah, kind of like going outside in a derogatory.
It's just like going outside.
I see how that came off, but yeah, no, like really, if you're living in LA. Like the incentive to stay and play Tekken and get really good at it is probably lower, right? Like cost of living is so high and things like that. Like it makes more sense for those kinds of people to transition out of gaming and things like that. And I think that makes it hard because I came from Portland, and not only was the local scene already pretty small, but when COVID hit, I think they took the lockdowns very seriously. And as a consequence, there were just zero locals. So my entire come up was through online. So my priority as a Tekken player is investing in the netcode as much as possible. And it's not as simple as implementing rollback, because Tekken does have rollback, but if there's too much rollback, Tekken is a high APM movement game. So rollback gets ugly. You can't predict where your opponent's going to be.
For people watching this that might not know, what is rollback in a fighting game?
That's a good question. So the traditional forms of netcode that people think about or that are referred to in common conversation are delay-based netcode and rollback netcode. In reality, they interact together, especially in Tekken. But for context, two people connecting
netcode
online.
Is the server, right? It's the server.
Netcode is how the game makes decisions about connecting two players. So traditionally, delay-based netcode is you have somebody on this side of the country and somebody on this side of the country. They have to talk to each other. There's a natural delay. Let's slow down the game, your input to the game, until we can guarantee that they're synchronized. So if it takes 20 milliseconds to talk to the East Coast, both players should wait 20 milliseconds before their button registers. That way we can confirm the information is good, everything is synchronized, good to go. That's the traditional way of doing it. Rollback netcode is an adaptation where both sides will simulate what they expect the game will do next, right? So if you're doing a combo, the game can probably predict that you're going to continue doing the combo, right? Or it can so by using that prediction method, they can reduce the delay of when you hit the button and send that information and wait for the synchronization. Instead of waiting for synchronization, they'll just assume that you did the right thing. They'll assume that a certain amount of game state is met. If they're wrong, they'll roll back to the last known state, the last point of, oh yeah, we were here. So in Tekken, it's a problem because if you're moving around really fast and the whole point of Tekken is being unpredictable with your movement and your timing, the game cannot tell where you're going to be. So on the visual side, it just looks like you're teleporting in a bunch of different spaces. So I say all that to say that it's not just a case of many people just say, just add rollback to Tekken. And I would love that too. But just rolling back falls off at the top level where people are making micro decisions based on micro spacings. And if you twitch forward, that can make someone punch, that can make someone swing. If you're twitching forward in every direction, it really, really is not the same quality of gameplay as sitting in the same place. So I don't know what the solution would be. We're in an esports winter, but it would be cool to have some kind of high density training area where the best people could play. And we're just such a big country. We're so spread out.
Do you think that, based on what you played in Tekken 8, because I know you played it, the demo and the CBT and the network tests pretty extensively, do you think that those netcode changes are being implemented to allow, more consistent high-level play?
I know they outsourced the development this time to a team, I think, in Japan that specializes in netcode. And in my experience playing it, they've made some changes outside of just the netcode to try and make it more comfortable. Part of the reason backdash is so not as fluid now is it's easier to run the rollback if you can't backdash as far and as quickly. So movement is more predictable. That's part of one of the changes they've verbally said in interviews to handle this netcode problem. But the problem is I have so much fun moving in Tekken. So it's a weird trade-off. So far, I mean, personally, I was a Noctis player, right? So I could get away with not having perfect understanding of spacing and everything because my sword went the full screen. So I just love playing high-level players. And to me, that's the number one priority. And it's more about what will keep them coming back, what will keep them engaged, because a lot of the smartest players would rather just not play than play low quality games, which makes sense. It makes sense. And so
it's kind of like a do or die for them a little bit, where it's we need to get this right or it's going to screw up our
And here's the problem.
scene.
I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a network developer, so I can speculate all of these things, but ultimately it will just come down to, can they drive enough interest with the gameplay, with the marketing to get people to play it? Because if enough people play it, there will be enough people near you, right? So I think as much as there are technical solutions at play, if they can make the game fun enough, it'll probably be okay, right? Like we got this far. It's not ideal, but we're making it work. The new blood of Tekken 7 is coming up off of online and doing decently at international tournaments. So it's not impossible. It's not doomed. It's just it would be great if we found a way. And I'm hopeful, but we'll see.
So on the note of communities, do you think that Tekken 8's hyper aggressive nature is going to put more pressure on the Korean and Pakistani communities? Because, like you said, EU's going to absolutely love this system because it gives them more rock, paper, scissors options. And I know American style is also very aggressive. Do you think that Tekken 8 will finally allow the West to kind of see an edge over Pakistan and Korea, or
I think Pakistan is still going to be really good because their style is similar to Europe in that sense. I think that Korea, it's hard to say. I think Korea has a reputation for being kind of defensive and movement focused, but there are plenty of players there who have a history of being aggressive and being crazy, right, and read based. So the defensive Korean style was I think emergent based on how old Tekken's really rewarded that. So it remains to be seen if they can make this sweeping change into this new style. I know Nii in particular is known for his flexibility over anything. Like probably it's less visually apparent if you only watch tournaments, but if you compare his progression from the end of Tag 2 till now and how he adopted the Tekken 7 playstyle, I think that I have confidence in him and the other really good players in adapting well to Tekken 8. I don't think Tekken 8 is that far removed from a proper Tekken. I think, in fact, it probably rewards more Tekken skill than Tekken 7 did. So, like, I'm talking like if you were a good Tag 2, 6, 5 player, you'll probably be a lot better at 8 than you were at 7.
And that's because, like you were talking about before, like the tactical nuke situation.
Nuke situation. And yet 7 is weird because usually the answer is don't do anything. You might die. And 8 is going to say, like, do something or you will die, right? And old Tekkens were like that. Like, you couldn't just, even though, like, old Tekkens had infinite stages constantly, you couldn't just backdash, right? A low was so threatening in terms of damage that you had to start making reads. You had to respond. And Tekken 8 is, like, not necessarily that front on damage, but it's you have to respond or your opponent will get heat and run you over, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
Or just kill you with chip. I mean,
yeah. So, again, it's all speculation. We don't have the game yet. I don't know all the answers to everything, but that's my impression so far. I have to give that disclaimer every 2 seconds because people always ask me, like, "Oh, how does this work?" I'm like,
I mean,
we don't know.
That's part of the fun of talking to you about this is because we don't have the game yet. So, you know. So now the obvious question, more fun. Victor, you don't have Noctis. Are you gravitating towards Victor? Are you going to go back to Devil Jin? Are you gonna?
Devil Jin does look kind of cool, but I was not that interested.
He looks so cool.
I was not that interested in Victor until the very recent Red Bull showcase. I saw his moveset breakdown. I saw his trailer, and he reminded me more of like Raven and Kunimitsu, like small knives up close and then stance mix-ups. And I'm not really a stance player, and I don't really care too much for the fast poking necessarily. I like good movement, big counter hit, and big whiff punish, right? So if Victor didn't have that, I didn't care as much. But after playing a lot of the betas, I played a lot of Azucena and kind of got comfortable a bit more with the idea that you should be getting in there more often. And then I saw that Victor has he has like that mid-frame counter hit launch that is safe. And immediately I was reminded of Lars from Tekken Tag 2.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah,
he has the mid-safe counter hit. He has some stances. Obviously, Tekken 8 is a more stance-heavy game, so Victor has some stances that are a bit more offensive. But I prefer using stances mainly as combo tools, right? I think that's really cool, and Victor is that. His one of his stances is really, really prominent for combos and is really flashy, so I do enjoy that part. And then Victor does have long-range punishment options, and it seems like it's going to reward you for being really good at deciding which punish to use. I'm not known for that. Noctis is really easy punishes, but all those things considered, once I actually watched him in game, it seemed a lot more interesting to me. Plus the context of playing a bunch of Tekken 8 early content and feeling like, oh, you really have to fight. So if I accept that I have to fight, maybe this is a good style for me. So yeah, Victor seems more fun. Yeah.
That brings up an interesting question though, because you mentioned that your primary enjoyment from Tekken comes from counter hitting the shit out of people when they try to press into you. Have you?
It's actually the whiff punish, but the counter hit
you like whiff punishing. Okay,
whiff punishment is my favorite, but counter hitting and whiff punishment go hand in hand because whiff punishment is where somebody misses because they swung too early, and then you whiff punch them, right? So if they are tired of whiffing, they won't swing so early. They'll run into you first. But if you have to run and then do a move, that's slower than me just doing a move, right? So that's the counter hit part. So that's how they interact. They have a symbiotic relationship, right? Like the more you counter hit somebody, the more likely they are to whiff. The more that you whiff punish them, the more likely they are to get counter hit.
So why haven't you? So that's it brings up an interesting question of like, have you ever considered playing characters like Brian or Steve, or do they lean too far into the counter hit realm and less so into like the whiff punishment kind of thing.
No, so I developed a Steve in Tekken 7 in order to make my Noctis better. Like, if Steve can't find the counter hit, he gets nothing. So it was a natural development. But he still has to whiff punish. Even though Sonic Fang doesn't do a lot of damage, he has to whiff punish in order to get the counter hits online again, right? Brian was not cool to me as a character. I did not understand the hype at all. Until Tekken 8, I actually kind of liked Brian a bit more.
Really?
But, yeah. But Brian is weird because when I pick him, I can't help but play like an idiot. His moves are so funny to me that I just stand at range like 4 and I just hit 3+4 over and over again. I just keep kicking.
The only reason I ask is because I know I'm not the only fan of yours that wants to see you do a taunt jet upper in the middle of tournament and then just immediately drop the controller and go.
Yeah, I would just leave. I would just leave. Yeah, so I don't know. Like Brian, to me, I don't get a lot of the same like dopamine hit off of his hard combos, off of his like I enjoy the counter hit placement and stuff, but like his hard combos aren't cool to me. Like to me, the style of how they look and the cancels out of the like snake dash, the crouch dashes,
yeah.
That's not fun for me to do or to execute. It's not fun for me to execute or succeed in. So I don't get a lot of dopamine out of playing Brian. That's the only thing. I would do really dumb combos that are really easy. And I think Brian players are nerds. They love doing the really hard stuff. That's the appeal, right?
Yeah.
So that's what kept me off Brian. And then Steve, I do enjoy Steve, but he's kind of weird in Tekken 8. He's a weird dude. He's funny.
It's the chin. You know?
The chin, and then they made him like a joke character. He was so cool, and then they made him like a joke character. So yeah, I was hesitant on Victor. I really liked Azucena. I thought her concept was so corny. Like it didn't make sense. Like coffee, whatever. But the more you actually play the character and see her on screen, the more it's clear how much attention they paid to the like creating a character that is way overstimulated, right? Like chemically overstimulated. Every action she does has so much energy and so much like flair that it feels like somebody like you feel like you're on coffee playing her. And so I really enjoyed her character the more I played her. And then I also wanted to play Lily because apparently she's really, really broken.
Yeah, I read Fergus's doc he put out yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Talking about
I haven't
how
read
Lily
it
had
yet,
like
but
the best sidestep in the game.
best sidestep. Her backdash is good too. She has a Brian 3+4. She has 2 heat smashes. Her back turn stance is real. Like there's a lot of stuff. She's crazy.
You mentioned too, I think in one of your videos that in the Reina video you did, you mentioned you were gonna try to play Reina day 1 just to know all the cheesy stuff that people are gonna try to you online. I think I know what the answer is to this because you mentioned that you're not into stance characters and she has like 50 gajillion stances. But would you ever consider picking up her because you had Devil Jin as a sub?
If she's so stupid that she's like ridiculously good, then I might go on a Reina quest. Yeah. I do like the character. I think the voice actor did an amazing job. So Reina's really cool to me. Just the Mishima style itself was never that appealing to me either. Like I can play like I got a Kazuya to TGP again to help develop my other game, my gameplay of like looking at the screen and not being afraid to do an action that might kill yourself, like for the sake of winning. That's kind of Kazuya's thing. Like you can't be afraid of dying when you play Kazuya. So I developed a Kazuya for that, but I don't get a lot of stimulation out of playing Mishimas either. So
it's interesting because and correct me if I'm wrong because you have more experience with this than I do, but the Mishima style relies heavily on whip punishing though too, doesn't it? Or
it's kind of all facets of Tekken. So like you have to, with Kazuya specifically, because he doesn't have necessarily like an oppressive poke game. His pokes aren't bad, but they're not oppressive. So he has to use the threat of the Hell Sweep to get you to run into his electric or to swing early and then whiff. But if you're fighting somebody who has really good defense as Kazuya and they just sidewalk left, duck everything with really good timing, it's really hard to find the Hell Sweep. It's hard to find the initial launch. So Kazuya is fun to like beat people up who you're better than, I think. But that meta game of opening up somebody who is playing like that, it becomes way more than whiff punishment. So for me, it's cool, and I really respect players who can do it. I just don't get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Doesn't activate the neurons.
It does not.
Okay, so got a couple more questions, and I'll try to make it quick because I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we're over. So feel free to cut me off at any point if we're going too long. But Tekken 8 slated to bring a whole bunch of new people. A bunch of Mortal Kombat people are very angry at their game and saying how they're going to come over to Tekken because it looks good. Sonic Fox says he's going to come over, and I think he said Victor Azucena, and I think now he wants to play Hwoarang. You quote tweeted him the other day and said we're all screwed if he decides to play Hwoarang. I'm guessing you think that means his style would gel pretty well with that character.
He's also a nerd. He's willing to, or they're really willing to go into the deepest details and lab, like they were saying on Twitter, they're willing to lab really mundane situations over and over and over again. And Hwoarang can feel mundane to some, so it can be exciting to some, but there are a lot of situations to become aware of. So Sonic Fox in general, I fought their Noctis in 7.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Do you think if they polished their style, similar to what they do in Mortal Kombat, do you think that we could have finally some Western representation that could, threaten, Korean and Pakistani dominance, or do you think that he might struggle a little bit getting used to their more defensive and poke-oriented styles?
I think Sonic Fox might struggle with the Tekken Legacy portion and really getting up to speed on very specific interactions. Playing Noctis does enable you to skip a lot of steps, like truthfully. So I think that's not a problem. I do think that they are insanely cracked. Like when I fought their Noctis, it felt like my jabs were all at risk of being whiff punished every time. There's no fear that they might miss the whiff punish. It always comes out. So that the fighting game traits alone, like the stat loadout, is insane. And they have a proven track record of winning full championships. So the ability to show up to a tournament and perform is also proven. So those combinations of facts make me think like it's going to be disgusting if they end up committing to Tekken. I think the hardest part is if they stick with the game or not. Do
you think they will?
Hard to say. I'm not them, but I think a Tekken 8 looks appealing. I think I had so much fun playing the game. I can play that game for hours. The obstacle is fatigue, whereas Tekken 7 I can get bored. I can get frustrated. The obstacle for Tekken 8 is fatigue because I'm constantly making reads, constantly trying to do something. And even if I get bored on one character, because like say for example there's like a big skill discrepancy, I can just pick up another character and try to learn what they do, and it's still fun. So Tekken 8 is fun.
So, are we gonna get a throwback to your guys' Noctis mirror if they decide to main Victor? Are we gonna get a Victor mirror?
Yeah, I'm gonna get cooked. I had the Noctis legacy advantage, but if we're both picking up a character at the same time, it's over for me. But it'll be fun. It'll be cool to see the different ways we approach the game.
So you mentioned some things you are concerned about with the game's launch. I think netcode being one of those. Do you have any concerns about characters being disgustingly broken, or like you said, the aggressive patch cycle is one thing, but like, are you concerned about any character? Like, are there any characters on your radar that you're like, this is going to be just Leroy 2.0 or Akuma 2.0? Like,
I don't know enough about the characters necessarily, but I am concerned about certain player character combinations. So Joe Crush on the new Jack is going to be so stupid to fight. His style is so good for the new Jack. So I would not be surprised if he wins a bunch of tournaments as soon as 8 comes out. Like I think that the way he plays the game feels built for the new Jack. Same with Cuddlecore and Elisa. Like they really leaned into it feels like the style of Tekken 8 leans into the way she likes to play the game. Very active, power crush heavy, momentum based, and Elisa didn't seem to lose those things. So those are two players. I think that Anakin will also be disgusting on the new Jack and the new Bears. And
he mains Bears as well? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he plays a lot of Bears. In the Red Bull Showcase, he played Bear. Huh. And then he played Jack also.
Wait, but, was he in the Red Bull Showcase? I didn't see he had a match.
Yeah, he fought Joka's Devil Jin.
Oh. Is it?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go watch that. I didn't know. I didn't see him. I
think it was the second to last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go watch that now. I didn't know Joka played Devil Jin. Now I want to go watch and play it.
Yeah, Joka's Devil Jin was cool too. It was cool to see. But yeah, I think that I'm more concerned about the patch cycle than a broken character. I think if there's a broken character, I want people to have time to figure it out. And if it ends up truly being a problem, they will patch it. They're a patch heavy
like an
company,
Akuma,
right?
basically.
But like,
yeah.
But I like, and even in the old Tekken games, like you saw Tekken 5.0 versus DR, like Tekken 6 versus BR. Like there is a patch history. I just don't like that it's so regular and so designed to like mess up people's muscle memory. Like, you know how Lars' down forward 2-1 was changed like from mid-high to mid-mid to like unsafe? Like, that kind of change feels so pointless compared to like adjusted damage values, right? Like, I think adjusted damage values are the most stable way to patch something. If you really want a character to stop hurting so much, then just reduce their damage. But changing how their moves interact with the other 30, 40 plus characters eventually, and how every matchup functions and skewing that, and it feels really weird to do. So those are my main concerns. I would rather have a broken character that's a problem for a long time and less patches and give us time to figure it out than instantly patching everything that seems too strong and then being wrong later, right?
And what are you most excited for about, you know, with regards to the new launch? Or is there anything in particular that you're like, this is going to be great?
That's a great question. I'm excited for the YouTube, honestly. That's a big one. But no, I think it's nice to get it's nice to get a fresh coat of paint on Tekken. I think that a lot of us are, you know, we are Tekken fans, you know. The story actually looks really exciting. And after Tekken 7's story, I'm craving to see like how like they've really built it up in a really nice way. Like, you could make, I think, arguments about whether you prefer the darker tone of like Tekken 4 or like the goofy tone of 3, 5, and now Tekken 8. There's like, you know, there's a lot of goofiness in the game. There's a lot of ridiculousness. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that it just seems like they put a lot of attention and care and investment into it. And I think if you give developers a lot of resources, a lot of like time to express their care for the game, it comes out. And 8 feels like that. It feels like 7 was coming off of the heels of Tag 2, like kind of a last-ditch effort to save the franchise. And that kind of shows with where they put their effort, right? A lot of esports, a lot of viewability more than like story customization, things like that. So Tekken 8 having that kind of refreshed energy behind it, maybe budget too, to support these other modes of enjoying the game is really exciting to me. I'll be hanging out on the beach in that virtual arcade.
Wait, is there a beach section in the virtual?
Yeah,
arcade?
so where you play Tekken Ball is a beach outside. So hang out there with your avatars, you know.
It's funny. DLC Season 1 picks. Sans Eddie, for obvious reasons. Who are your picks?
Oh,
Who do you
geez.
think's
Wish
gonna-
list or who I think is realistic?
Both.
Okay, realistically, I think Armor King will come back. I think Marduk will come back. I think Julia will come back. I think Anna will come back. I think those are the most likely picks.
Who's on your
wish list? I think Lei belongs in every Tekken game. I think the Jackie Chan influence is amazing. I think the style, like, I love Tekken expressing different fighting styles. That's been a favorite part for me. So I think Lei would be great. We still need a Muay Thai fighter. I like Josie personally, but I get why people don't. So I'm not going to be picky. I'm just going to say a Muay Thai fighter, right? I think a Muay Thai fighter. I want Lei. I think the Anna Nina dynamic is cool. I would like to see more of that. I think it's a shame Anna always gets cut from the main roster, but I also get it. The one thing I'm not happy about is if she's DLC, she'll be really dumb. She was so dumb in Tekken 7.
Anna
She was so good. Anna?
Yeah, I didn't know Anna was. Yeah.
She's so good, man. She has the elbows like an electric. She can launch you with a low from full screen. That also has a mid threat. Like Joey Fury was making a tweet. He's like, I know I have no ground to stand on because I'm a Marduk player, but I have fought Anna players at Tekken God Omega who do not know how to punish. Like, the character is so strong, and in a 1-2 setting, it's ridiculous. So,
no,
I'm not excited for the DLC power level.
Yeah.
Of an Anna, Julia. Oh yeah, Julia should come back too. An Anna, Julia, like Lei DLC power level. I'm not excited for, but I do think the characters belong in Tekken. The Tekken 3 staples, basically.
No Tifa or Clive on your wish list, huh?
I think
Final Fantasy characters.
my attitude towards it is because we've talked about it so much. Bandai Namco has explicitly said they prefer not to do predictable DLC if it's a guest character. And because we've talked about it so much, I think it's not going to happen. I think, and that's why Christy has never come back. Is because the Christie fans were so aggressive about like bring her back or we'll kill you, you know, like, and because of that it creates seriously it creates like security threats at Namco. Harada tweeted about that. So because of the security threats, it makes it less likely for the board to approve like we want to put this character, like really you want to put that character. So
Gamers,
I think
man.
because we've talked about it too much, it's not going to happen. I'm happy to be wrong. I would love to play Tifa in a Tekken game. I think she belongs.
Yeah.
But because of the attention and the fact that it would be a predictable pick, and Square Enix is so hard to work with, they put so many restrictions on what you can do. Like, you know, Brian, where he like beats you up at the end of the game, you can't do that on Noctis.
Wait,
Yeah,
really?
it will not show up. Yeah. So they have restrictions on what you can do to their IP. You can't show their character dying. because it would not line up with the Square Enix canon. So yeah, there's a lot of very, very particular things that you are restricted from doing if you work with Square Enix, and I can't imagine that being fun.
Interesting.
That doesn't sound fun. So, and they said explicitly that they prefer to bring back original characters before they bring in guest characters again. So, all of that said, it's not on my wish list. The only guest character I really would want is Tifa, to be honest. Like, so I'm open for a happy surprise, but I'm not like bringing attention to it because I don't want to de-manifest it, you know?
See, I'm hoping they bring back, obviously they're going to bring back Armor King, but I'm hoping they bring back Roger Jr. or Alex. That's what I'm hoping for.
I mean, we saw like the mocap of the dinosaur.
I was like,
So,
he's got to be in there. Like I saw that mocap.
I think it's on the table. Oh, I want Mokujin. I think the reason Mokujin is so fun is because if you fight somebody better than you and they pick Mokujin, that like vibe is so funny because you get your one win and you're like, yeah, your ass, I got you, right?
How does he work again? Does he randomize
every round he simulates a different character.
That's insane.
So
he'd be perfect for someone like Arslan or Nee though. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. So like you fight Arslan and like, yo, pick Mokujin. Like that's my only hope. You know, like that would be funny.
If they decide to main Mokujin in the like Evo finals or something, that'd be crazy.
I'm saying like they could do an exhibition match like Mokujin versus Mokujin. You know, it would be so cool. And Mokujin rewards some knowledge too because the character's a different size. So some combos don't work and some combos do work that wouldn't normally work. So
that's so crazy to think about.
Mokujin is cool. I doubt it's going to happen because of the technical difficulty. They can barely get their hitboxes working. No shade. Namco, sorry. It's hard for them to get their hitboxes and all the other code working, so I doubt Mokujin will come, but oh my god, I love Mokujin. He's so fun.
That'd be sick. So, I think you answered this a little bit earlier, but if you weren't playing Tekken, what would you be doing right now? Like, if you weren't doing anything with Tekken, would you be doing League stuff? Like,
no, I'd be playing Fortnite. Build mode.
Why? Is it because the content's there?
No, the game is so fun.
Okay. So
I love the build mode of Fortnite. I would love to make content on it, obviously, but it's kind of saturated now, and I'm not good. I'm really bad at Fortnite, but oh my god, that game is cool. Like when you boil it down to like the basics of fighting, like outside of building an apartment complex, like when you're fighting somebody and you're like, you both have the same wall and you're trying to get an angle or shoot or take the wall, it becomes a fighting game. It becomes a fighting game where you take the wall. If they have their gun out, they might shoot you. You know, there's so many different interactions. I could go into that forever. I love competitive build Fortnite.
I did not peg you for a Fortnite player.
I am too old to be good at it, I think. It is so hard. That game is so hard.
That's funny.
Love Fortnite. I like high APM movement games. So like Melee, Fortnite
you mentioned
has
Osu as well, right? Like those. Like,
yeah, I'm bad at Osu, but like people put me on to get better at other things. But like, yeah, rhythm games I enjoy too. And then I think, but Fortnite satisfies that APM itch, and the fluidity of your movement comes from how well you can build and edit smoothly. And then Tekken has the Korean backdash and wave dashing, obviously. So I've always enjoyed like high input movement games. So the more of that is, and the more of like I can feel the skill development curve, the more I'll be likely to enjoy it. So yeah, I can't play Melee because it's too much on my hands. It doesn't like
your injury.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't actively hurt them, but I cannot play as much as I would want to without actively hurting them. so I can't play Melee.
What about League?
And sorry, League?
Yeah, what about League?
League is not it right now. I've been playing a little bit recently, waiting for Tekken 8 to come out, and they keep making the game less they make it like win less. You know, like win more mechanics? They make it like win less mechanics.
Like, what do you mean when you elaborate on that a little bit?
So, very basic situation. Say you kill your opponent in a 1v1. They have to wait for their death timer, and then they have to walk back to the lane, right? In that downtime, you can kill them, like your minions might die and they lose experience, or you can do damage to their tower. Now they respawn so fast that I'm often at a disadvantage for killing them, because if I don't leave right away, I might die. But I have no chance to kill the minions, so I lose experience and gold. And when they're dead, they can earn experience now. So it becomes less rewarding to kill them than to just keep them alive and keep the minions close by, right? So I don't like the anti-win mechanics. I don't like I would rather lose really hard if that means when I'm winning, I can win really hard. I don't want it so that if I'm losing, I can feel better because we got to win because nothing happened. I don't want to feel worse because I was winning and then we lost because one thing happened, right? Like, I would rather get punished really hard, pause, in order to get a really nice win if I'm winning later, right? Like,
You didn't have to pause there. Like, that wasn't
that's
a
how I
sussy
feel.
comment.
That's how I feel about games in general. Even though I benefit from comeback mechanics and things like that, I like the idea of a really punishing game that rewards you for getting really good at it. So League is not that right now, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Last couple questions. So when you're not playing Tekken or streaming, what are you doing? Or when you're not playing Tekken, streaming, or making content, what are you doing?
I'm usually hanging in Discord playing Fortnite or recently playing League. But I don't play a lot of like traditional single player games or things like that. I find that there's a barrier to entry where I have to be in the right mood. I have to like have the right setup and things like that. So if it's not all
you
that,
mentioned you were a musician as well, though. Do you do music on the side as well, or?
I wish I did. Music is such a complicated experience for me because it's so tied into previous ideas of success and there's like that laced in the enjoyment of that. So it's a very difficult medium for me to engage with physically. As much as I want to keep playing and I want to do all these things, I have to get past the barrier of, remember what you used to be able to do, things like that, you know? So music is really, really challenging, but I constantly have plans to get back into it. I think that my hope is that as YouTube, hopefully the YouTube continues to succeed, I can automate more processes. I can like delegate more processes. Like if I'm not the one literally doing every thumbnail, literally doing every video, then maybe I'll have more time to play music. But as of now, I think the iron is so hot for YouTube that it's hard for me to revisit music when I'm just trying to decompress and set up for the next, like, you know, next grinding activity for whatever that's worth. That's usually not a mindset I'm like very supportive of, like grind nonstop. But in this case, it's so fun and energizing for me that I enjoy doing it. I wouldn't tell people like, you gotta grind, you gotta do these things, but me personally, I'm enjoying it so much that I feel comfortable like expressing it that way.
And you mentioned this the other day, I think, on Twitter and also on your YouTube. You had a full-time job.
I did.
They let you go last year, and then they just let you go again.
Yes.
Were you working at that company all throughout your professional career as part of Tekken, or?
No, I got hired in like 2022, and my pro Tekken, or not pro Tekken, but like grinding in Tekken started around like late 2019.
Okay.
So it was just funny.
Yeah. So did they? I mean, you can go in as in depth or as vague as you want, but was their decision to let you go originally and then, you know, later on rehire you? Did that stem from, you know, hey, he's taking off too much time to go to tournament and play Tekken, or?
Surprisingly, no. I was afraid that was the case, but no. The CEO was making like executive decisions in order to do, you know, what CEOs need to do. And then when an opening appeared, my old manager, he was my team lead, he said, yo, we don't have to train this guy again. He was really fun on the team and he was doing a great job. Let's just bring him back. Like, this is a smart hire. Fast forward to now, the CEO needs to do CEO things again. And because I was the freshest hire, just like last in, you know, it was just, it was my time relative to that.
Would you go back if they decide, like, you know, later on to rehire you?
If I went to the exact same team, yes. I loved my team. I never wanted to do software again after my old experiences until I got in this team. This team made it fun again. As fun as it can be. I got paid. But like it was the most enjoyable software experience I've had ever. And it's hard to imagine being on a team that's not like that. So are you doing YouTube full time now, or just out of, I guess that was just the next available thing. Like, I'm still looking to what's available, but it kind of came at a good time where everybody's like asking for time off, and I'm like, I got time off. Like,
yeah. Well, I was asking because I wasn't sure if you were like, if you were at the point now where it was like, okay, the YouTube is doing super well. Let me go full time, you know, YouTube, and screw looking for a second job. Or are you in the market for, you know, something to supplement your income while the YouTube is going? Like, what's your...
So how I see it is that coming from an Asian background, there are a lot of optics involved with the career you have, right? So the job for me fulfills those optics a lot more than it fulfills the financial need at this exact time. That said, I see a future where YouTube takes over. So
And that's what you're trying to get to,
probably,
right? Like YouTube and Twitch taking over full time.
So I probably would. I mean, I probably wouldn't be doing it if I didn't see that future, right? So like, I see a future where YouTube takes over, and my recent fortune and like I've been fortunate that my recent success continues to support that idea. So yeah.
So last couple questions. So related to that, and again, you can go as detailed or as vague as you'd like. What was your family's perception of you know, going full-time Tekken or going pro Tekken for a while? And because you mentioned the optics thing as well.
Yeah. My immediate family was very supportive. They kind of saw how hard I grinded, like, again, prior to high school and college and things like that. I really invested my entire being into that vision. And so when it didn't exactly pan out, they kind of relaxed and were kind of like, you know, you work so hard, you'll probably do well wherever you go. So they're very supportive. They watch. My mom watches my videos. She was like, your hotel videos look as good as your regular ones. I was like, oh,
that's so sweet.
Like, it's cool. It's they're very supportive, and it makes a big difference. So I'm also fortunate to have that kind of direct support there. Like that's pretty cool. I know not everybody gets that. So
last one, Tekken 7. We're done with it. 2 days from now. Do you have any regrets? Anything you wish you would have done differently at a pro level, a local?
I wish I didn't play
level?
League, man. If I didn't play League and play Tekken 7, I probably would have not. I would have solved the choking problem sooner. It's not even solved. I would have handled it or managed it better.
We'll do back up for me for a second. So how long did you play League before you got into Tekken?
2014 to 2019.
Okay.
It was a significant amount of time.
Yeah. So
It was
so
a
those
significant
5
amount of time.
years. Yeah, you would have. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's hard to call it a regret, because I heavily subscribe to the belief that every action, every experience shapes who I am today. And there are many deficiencies I would have had I not gone through that League experience. I would not have the perspective on the self-gentleness to improve. I would not have that perspective of kind of like outcome independence. Like, I treat a lot of my endeavors like poker, where like you can make the right play, you can still lose. And that comes from League. So, in those senses, there's a lot of development I've gone through that I would not trade, you know? It's just, if you directly like zoom in really close to like tournament performance in Tekken, yes, I wish I played Tekken more. But it's hard to call it a regret. And like, from a balanced perspective, zooming out, like, I don't really have many regrets. I'm really happy with like the fact that Noctis came to Tekken, the fact that even though everybody hated Noctis, they kind of wanted to support me, you know? Like, I really thrive on that kind of energy of like, wow, we hate this character, but watching you play him is so cool, you know? Like, I love that. That's awesome. So I don't have many regrets. The only regret I would have is if I had like hurt somebody or offended somebody, like, you know, if that were the case. But in my available memory, I can't think of a time I did that, at least on purpose, right? So,
well, you're the world's nicest, most toxic streamer. So.
That's the goal. Fuck
All
you.
right.